Metal Raiders is the second core booster set in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. Released in 2002, it introduced powerful cards like Mirror Force and Sangan that became staples in competitive play. The set expanded strategies with a mix of monster, spell, and trap cards, offering players new options to enhance their decks and tactics. If you've seen my first video on my favorite cards in The Legend of Blue-Eyes-White-Dragon, you know I'm a fan of the weirder aspects of the game, and boy did Metal Raiders come in swinging with some not only powerful, but strange cards as well. But this isn't a list of the weird. That video comes a little bit later. So let's make like Philip DeFranco and just jump into it. Here are my top 10 favorite cards in Metal Raiders. And at number 10, we have Heavy Storm. Heavy Storm is a normal spell card that simply reads, destroy all spell and trap cards on the field. Now, as our only currently forbidden card on the list, Heavy Storm really packs a punch. Completely obliterating my friend's back row really felt satisfying back in the day. Now, the reason a card like Harpy's Feather Duster is allowed to be at 1 despite seeming better is the fact that as Yu-Gi-Oh! Progresses, there are more and more floating effects, including 4 spells and trap cards. So if you were able to just wipe out all of your own back row as well as your opponent's, you could gain some nutty advantage. It's not super nostalgic for me, but it is just enough to make the lowest spot on the list. And at number 9 is Solemn Judgement. Solemn Judgement is a counter trap card that reads, when a monster or monsters would be summoned or a spell or trap card is activated, pay half your life points. Negate the summon or activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Now, for a little while, when this card was released, people didn't believe paying half your life points to negate one card was worth it. They did understand how powerful the effect was. It's just that life points were more important back in caveman Yu-Gi-Oh! Times. But once it became popular, the ball kept rolling, eventually leading to Judgment being banned for years, only somewhat recently coming off the FNL list completely. I've always loved counter trap cards, especially since Counter Fairy is one of my favorite decks to play, and Solemn Judgment is pretty much the poster child of that subset of cards. Basically saying no to anything is quite devastating if used in the right scenario. Although these days, it sees not nearly as much play. Not that it doesn't see any play, which is a testament to how powerful this super old card truly is. And at our number 8 spot is Barrel Dragon. Barrel Dragon is a dark, level 7 machine effect monster with 2600 attack and 2200 defense, whose effect reads, once per turn, you can target one monster your opponent controls. Toss a coin 3 times and destroy it if at least 2 of the results are heads. As one of the most badass looking old school cards that was wielded by Bandit Keith in America. I've always loved Barrel Dragon. I was never the biggest fan of gamble cards, but this was one with no downside other than not being able to destroy a monster. It has a good stat line at 2600 attack, so back in the day, while it did require 2 tributes, it could beat over many monsters. I mostly love it for the artwork and how cool it always seemed to me as a kid, so it's not at a much higher spot. At number 7 is Change of Heart. Change of Heart is a normal spell card, which reads, target one monster your opponent controls. Take control of it until the end phase. Now here's a card I never thought would be unbanned. One of the more recent FNL list changes brought this crazy DM staple back into the competitive fray. I was absolutely shocked when I saw that list. And apparently it's not doing much competitively, so I guess Konami is lucky, lest we have another Snatch Steal moment. Oh dear God. But the reason I love Change of Heart so much is that, like Pot of Greed, it's a simple yet super powerful effect. The artwork is pretty dope as well, but my favorite memory of the card is in the anime with Bakura using it as his favorite card in the shadow duel he had against Yami Yugi in Season 1, where Yugi and his friends became their favorite monsters / cards. It represented the duality of the evil spirit inside Bakura's Millennium Ring and the innocent classmate that Yugi and pals knew. Change of Heart is an all-around solid and nostalgic card in my book. And at our 6th spot, we have Witch of the Black Forest. Witch of the Black Forest is a dark, level 4 spellcaster effect monster with 1100 attack and 1200 defense, whose effect says, if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, add one monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand, but you cannot activate cards or effects of cards with that name for the rest of the turn. You can only use the effect of Witch of the Black Forest once per turn. Now, the modern version of this card reads this, which allowed it as well as Sangan to eventually not be banned anymore since they kind of overcorrected and made them somewhat unplayable. Back in the day, there was not even a once per turn or any restrictions on the monster that Witch searched out, making the first ever combo to cause Konami to make some cards banned, not just limited. The combo included having either Witch or Sangan on the field, getting a light and dark monster into your graveyard, banishing them to summon Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoy of the End from your hand, using CED to send everything from both players' hands and field to the graveyard, which procs either Witch or Sangan to search Yata-Garasu, normal summon out Yata, poke into your opponent with the Yata, and since they have no cards to play with and Yata-Garasu doesn't allow them to draw cards, you essentially had game. I like Witch of the Black Forest a little more than Sangan since she has better stats and can search out a lot more stuff, since a lot of big attack monsters have low defense, like a future monster that may be on a list of mine when we get to that set. But like I said, nowadays no one really plays Witch since it's been nerfed to high hell, so it can't be any higher in my opinion. And halfway through the list is Summoned Skull. Summoned Skull is a dark level 6 fiend normal monster with 2500 attack and 1200 defense, whose flavor text reads, "A fiend with dark powers for confusing the enemy. Among the fiend type monsters, this monster boasts considerable force." When I was a kid, this might be my number one, but nowadays, I think it's still awesome, but deserves a more middling spot. Don't get it twisted though, Summoned Skull along with Dark Magician were two cards I brought everywhere with me as a kid. To school, on vacations, you name it. Back in the day, before Konami started really sucking Dark Magician's big rod and making so much support for him, Summoned Skull Beatdown was a pretty viable strategy since he required one less tribute than Dark Magician with the same attack stat. I loved the bullshit in the anime where Summoned Skull having a lightning-based attack allowed some shenanigans with water to occur. Also, he just looks super menacing, all demonic and shit. Fun fact, due to translation fuckery from Japanese to English, Summoned Skull got retroactively added to the Archfiend archetype. Oh wait, you knew that already? Okay dude, you're cool I guess. And at number 4 is Kaz Jin. Kaz Jin is a wind level 7 spellcaster effect monster with 2400 attack and 2200 defense, which says, once while face up on the field, during damage calculation in your opponent's turn, if this card is being attacked, quick effect, you can target the attacking monster, make that target's attack 0 during damage calculation only. As one of the Elemental Guardian trio, Kaz Jin, despite being the weakest in stats, is my favorite of the bunch, simply because it was the first I owned. I don't even think I owned Suijin, but I did own a Spanish copy of Sanga of the Thunder, as well as other random Spanish cards like Lady of Faith, Jiraiya, and Okubeam. I honestly don't remember where I got those cards in the first place. Kaz Jin and its whole posse of monsters are some of the coolest OG cards in the game, mainly for one of my favorite parts in Season 1 of the anime where the Paradox brothers tag duel Yugi and Joey, using Labyrinth Wall as a sort of pseudo field spell card, even though it's just a 3000 defense vanilla monster in the real game. All this bullshittery going down in the maze while they get ready to summon a monster that they say rivals the power of Exodia. Kaz Jin also has that really eldritch look to it that I love in older Yu-Gi-Oh! And at our number 3 spot is Mirror Force. Mirror Force is a normal trap card which says, activate only when an opponent's monster declares an attack. Destroy all attack position monsters your opponent controls. Ah, yes, one of Yu-Gi-Oh's earliest board wipes, as well as a battle trick. Way back in the day, Mirror Force was even powerful enough to get banned, and then limited for a while. While trap cards as a whole are not played anymore, I still love using Mirror Force in my jank decks, if I have the room. It's one of the most iconic cards in the game's history, being one of the few cards that non-Yu-Gi-Oh players may recognize. The main reason I love it isn't just its power level from back in the day, but that it was an absolute staple in any deck I made when playing against my brother and friends. In fact, I'm pretty sure we all had one, so it kind of just strengthened the bond we had over playing the game. And our runner-up in this list is number 2, Gate Guardian. Gate Guardian is a dark, level 11 warrior effect monster with 3750 attack and 3400 defense, whose effect, which is really only its summoning condition, reads, cannot be normal summoned or set, must first be special summoned from your hand by tributing one Sanga of the Thunder, Kaz Jin, and Suijin. I usually don't have more than one card in either an archetype or series of cards, but Gate Guardian is just too fucking cool to not be on the list. Like I mentioned in the Kaz Jin entry, this guy is also used in the anime episode with the Paradox brothers. It was a pseudo-fusion of the elemental trio that they claimed had power to rival Exodia. Even in the anime, Exodia just straight up wins you the game, so I think they overestimated Gate Guardian's potential there. But especially in the actual card game, this behemoth is just that. A behemoth. With the highest stats of any warrior type monster in the game, he is quite beefy if gotten on the field. But that's the thing, its summoning condition is way too difficult to pull off. And what crazy effect does it have for its payoff? Absolutely nothing. The only reason Gate Guardian is an effect monster is just to show how it's summoned. But I've been ragging on this dude for too long now. After all, it is the runner-up in my list of favorite cards from the set. There are two main reasons I love this monster so much. One, well, just look at the thing. It's a mix of badass and eldritch, just like the monsters that make it up. And the other is its stats. Not only are level 11 monsters pretty rare, but back in the day, I'd never seen such a high attack and defense. I know they somewhat recently printed some support for all of the Guardian guys, but I'd love to see some actual meta-defining stuff one day. Please, Konami. I'm on my knees here. Well, actually, I'm in a desk chair, but you get the idea. And our winner of my favorite cards in Metal Raiders goes to Illusionist Faceless Mage. Illusionist Faceless Mage is a dark level 5 spellcaster normal monster with 1200 attack and 2200 defense, with flavor text that reads, manipulates enemy attacks with the power of illusion. Some of you may be wondering why the fuck a low-statted level 5 vanilla monster made it the whole way to the top of my list of favorite Metal Raiders cards. Well, if you've learned anything from my past videos, I love weird, creepy or eldritch horror when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! And if this is the first time you're seeing one of my videos, why don't you go ahead and subscribe already, okay? But just look at this thing. Imagine coming face to non-face with this creature at night. I have no idea if the mannequin-looking heads on its shoulders are sentient or not, but either way, they creep me the fuck out. I also find humanoids with no face to be extremely unsettling. Back in the day, I owned this card and thought that since it had high defense, that justified it needing a tribute, but it was just one of those early monsters with too low of stats for their level. It was in the first batch of cards that my brother and I ever owned back in 2003, since I'm pretty sure my brother got the starter deck Pegasus, and this was one of his monsters, while maybe not a prominent one. All in all, Illusionist Faceless Mage, while it may haunt your nightmares, is also my favorite card in Metal Raiders, although maybe he's just using his magic to manipulate me into thinking that. Ugh. So, as we come to the close on yet another list video, Metal Raiders, much like LOB before it, had some stinkers, but also a bunch of gems. I think even more so in this particular set. But that's it for my time. Remember to like the video, subscribe if you're new here to become a scrubscriber, and let me know what your favorite cards in Metal Raiders are in the comments below. And I will see you guys next time.